Salutations, my friends, I am TheMightyMander, and welcome to a new sort of mini-series kind of thing, experiment on my channel that I'm going to be trying out, in which I take a very close look and analyze some of the heroes in one of my favorite games of the past year or two, Overwatch. So in this series, I'm going to be taking a very, very close look at some of these heroes, analyzing their characterization, their gameplay abilities, and their strategies for how I personally have been able to play them the best. And to start off this series, we're going to be taking a look at what I think is probably one of the more underrated and underused heroes in Overwatch, ZARYA. Just a disclaimer before we get started though, I will be talking about some very, very specific gameplay scenarios, some of which I unfortunately was not able to make happen while I was recording footage for this video. So, while I will be explaining them in depth and going over the exact details of those scenarios, some of them I just won't be able to show you in this video, and I apologize for that, but I think you guys will get what I mean. Alexandra Zarya Zaryanova was born in Siberia in the thick of the Omnic Crisis, the central conflict that sets into motion the events of Overwatch. Her hometown was devastated by the conflict, and as a result, Zarya is very distrustful of the Omnics. As she grew up, she focused her energy on gaining the strength to fight back, becoming one of the world's strongest women as a result. Look at those arms, bruh! She's swole as fuck! She packs a mean punch! Come at me, bro! I'll beat your ass down with my beefy guns! Come here! Her strength is reflected in her personality. She never backs down from a challenge, and she doesn't like to lose. She's very proud, and she doesn't take shit from anyone, which, I mean, come on, fucking look at her. She doesn't have to. She's fucking terrifying. So Zarya is a tank hero, which means she's all about controlling objectives, soaking up damage, and generally acting as a rock that keeps everyone together. Being that she's not covered head to toe in armor like Reinhardt, and she's not, well, Roadhog, she can't soak up quite as much damage as the other tank, as she only has 400 health as opposed to 500 or 600. But she makes up for that in other ways. Half of her health is made up of shields, meaning that no matter how much health you lose, you can always recover all 200 shields by avoiding damage for a short period of time. Both of her shoulder button abilities, on controller anyway, are projected barriers. One for you and one for any one of your teammates. They only last a couple seconds, but here's the kicker. If a barrier takes damage, it makes you do more damage, represented by the number in the middle of your HUD. The more damage the barrier takes, the higher the number gets, up to 50 per barrier. The higher the number, maxing out at 100, the higher your damage. When your damage is close to 100, oh my god, you are a one-woman wrecking crew and you can decimate your enemies in seconds. This is why Zarya is such a sleeper character. She's tricky to get used to, but a good Zarya is absolutely nothing to fuck with. In fact, I played with Zarya for about 2 hours straight, gathering footage for this video, and it made me so good with her that she's now one of my mains, and I pull her out whenever I don't feel like fucking around anymore. Her ultimate, Graviton Surge, is one of the trickiest yet possibly most devastating ultimates in the entire game. It's a singularity that traps any nearby enemies for a short period of time, and it can be one of the best playmakers out of any ultimate in the entire game. If you're at near maximum charge, or someone like Hanzo, Soldier, or Pharah has their ultimate ready to go, it's a perfect setup for a team kill or near team kill. Meaning that used in the right scenario, it can be the play that wins the game for your team, though it probably won't be the actual play of the game, because that will probably be Torbjorn whacking away at his fucking turret again. He didn't even do anything! Anyways, yeah, very powerful ult when used in the right hands. So the main thing that you've got to keep in mind when playing with Zarya is timing those barriers correctly. Their cooldown isn't very forgiving at about 7 or 8 seconds, so if you waste a barrier, it can leave you vulnerable to enemy attacks with no damage and you will die. So you're definitely not going to want to spam the barriers whenever you want. You also probably shouldn't just run into the middle of a massive group of enemies, because even though you'll get the damage boost, it won't be enough to outdamage the entire enemy team. You'll be sitting in the middle of all of them and you will die. Ideally, what you're going to want to do is provoke a couple of isolated enemies and bait them into shooting your barrier and buffing your damage. You can either retaliate immediately if it's a good opportunity, or just take the damage and run and bide your time to accumulate more. You might imagine that this would be a really good counter for quick killers like Bastion, but not as much as you might think, at least not in the case of Bastion specifically. Like I said, the shields top out at 50, so Bastion can just overload your barrier, top it out at 50, keep firing, and you will die. Honestly, the barriers are a better counter for massive, singular damage attacks like rockets, arrows, or sniper fire. It can even outright absorb the damage from ultimates like Diva's Self-Destruct, Junkrat's Riptire, and Tracer's Pulse Bomb. Because those attacks are each just one source of damage, the barrier just absorbs it all regardless of how much damage it does. So as you can see, these barriers are incredibly versatile tools. You can take a burst of Bastion's minigun fire, then juke him, get behind him, and use that extra damage to attack his weak point, or you can hang out around the edges of Hanzo's dragons to get some free charge. The projected barriers are even more so. You could save one of your teammates from Tracer's Pulse Bomb even after they've been stuck, and you can even do that with yourself if you have the timing right. You could give a friendly sniper an extra few seconds to line up the perfect shot without the risk of being counter-sniped. You could protect a Pharah, Soldier, or Genji while they're using their ultimates, making it that much more effective. The possibilities are endless. As for Graviton Surge, like I said, it's definitely a setup ultimate. You're going to want to fire this around a payload or objective area while the entire team is gathered around it, and try to coordinate with other team members if possible. If you're in a jam, you can also use it to get an annoying Tracer or Genji off your back, or really piss off a Genji mid-ultimate. And skins? Her skins are alright. Some of the weaker legendary skins in the game in my opinion, and the rest of her stuff is pretty par for the course, but of course, all this stuff is just cosmetic and all down to personal opinion anyway, so don't take my word for it. Go with whatever you like. So Zarya is now one of my favorite heroes to play in Overwatch, and along with Soldier 76, Lucio, and Zenyatta, she's one of my mains. Her projected barriers offer some of the most unique and tricky examples of that risk-reward gameplay that I think makes Overwatch so great in the first place, and her ultimate can be one of the most devastating in the entire game if used in the right opportunity. So I hope you enjoyed this first installment of my new character spotlight series on Overwatch, and if you did, please let me know that by liking or commenting on this video. And if this is the first video you're seeing of mine on my channel and you like what you see, please subscribe if you haven't already, because at this early of a phase in my channel's career, it helps me more than you could possibly imagine, so I would really appreciate if you did that. Well, that's about all I've got for you guys today. As always, I've been the Mighty Mander. I hope you all have a magnificent day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out, my friends.